What's up, you knuckleheads? It's Josh here, and today we are back with another episode of the Chaos Climb, where I will play a different comp each episode with a different randomly selected carry and see how high I can climb. Today the randomly selected carry is Soraka, and based on the fact that I have to play a comp that uses one of their traits, that means I basically have to play a Jade comp. But given the fact that Soraka's ability is just to heal and she doesn't really have any damage to speak of, it's not really practical to build a full damage Soraka, but I am going to build her a full carry, meaning 3 items, and make her the primary focus of the comp, in this case buffing up the actual damage carry. Now, throughout the challenge thus far, I've only gotten first places, and spoiler alert, that's not going to be happening this time, so I haven't really to sit down and dissect and talk about the issues and lessons that you can learn from the comps that I'm playing. So today's video is going to be less about the comp itself and more about the lessons that we can learn based on these comps and what I did right and what I did wrong, because I did a lot of things wrong even though I've played this game for a while. So as you can see in this first game, I'm playing a very standard Jade comp, just taking the best units the early game gives me and putting the best items on them possible. So for instance, I get a Chalice of Power early that I stick on Bully Bear. I know I'm going to put that on Soraka later. Even though it's not the most ideal early game item, it's still one that I'm going to end up using, so figured I would just get it out of the way early. I actually managed to hit triple Chalice and get those on Soraka, but I also have difficulty getting the Shio-Yu, but I'm also getting close to a 3-star Zippy, so I don't want to just drop those and give the items to Shio-Yu. But unfortunately, what I didn't really consider, and this is the first big lesson of this video, is you need to consider how itemization fits into your comp. In this case, because I don't have a lot of ability damage based units, that means that they're not really getting the benefit of having Chalice of Power. So better itemization here for Soraka would have been multiple Spears of Shojin. I still managed to finish 3rd, but in my opinion, if I had gone better itemization for Soraka, I would have had a much better shot to finish first. Now, game 2 is where I begin to, how you say, fuck shit up. After having a modicum of success with the Double Dragon, Zippy, and Shio-Yu comp, I decided that because I didn't really get a use out of Soraka with her 3 Chalice of Powers in the first game, I was going to switch it up and maybe see if there was a more ideal comp that could utilize that build. As a result, I went for a Jade Shapeshifter comp, but I make a mistake both in game 2 and game 3 that is basically the same, and I really shouldn't have, especially after making the mistake the first time, which is relying on Lagoon early without a plan to transition to it late. Lagoon really is just one of those traits that is dog early, and the hope is that you're going to get enough gold, experience, and itemization that it's going to matter and make it a god tier comp late. But I was stupid and I went for it as an opener comp, hoping I could just accelerate my gold and income because I knew I was going to have to level very quickly and early. Unfortunately, in both games, it cost me a lot of health early and I just could not recover from that. So that's another lesson to learn, which is that if you are playing towards a late game comp, you need to still preserve your health early game. It's really not worth it if your comp comes online in stage 5, but you only have enough health that if you lose 1 or 2 rounds, you're going to die. In all honesty, I should have pivoted off Lagoon after about stage 2-3 and picked up some intermediate carry like a Lux or a Namzi who could just hold items until I managed to hit on Shyvana and Soraka. But yeah, 2 times going for a Lagoon opener into getting an early 8 and hitting on Soraka and Shyvana. Neither of them work. I finished 8th 2 times. So game 4, I'm going to finally just abandon that Lagoon open. I know it's trash at this point, and I'm going to go for the Shapeshifter Jade comp, really focusing more on trying to get items onto Jace in the early part of the game, potentially looking to transition them to Shyvana, but really I'm just going to be focusing on trying to spike a little earlier and not being greedy and holding till late game like I have been doing the last 2 games. And it seemed to be working pretty well in the initial part. I was in the top 2 or 3 for just about the entire early game, really doing well with the combination of Nidalee, Silas, Karma, with Nidalee and Karma holding items that would go to Soraka and Shyvana respectively. Unfortunately, I just run into the issue of I cannot find a Shyvana or a Soraka or even a Jace in the late game. And because I am restricted in what I can do in this challenge, I really didn't have any other option other than to just keep rolling, and I had a lot of gold to roll and try and find one of those units that I needed. So this is another lesson, which in this case, I'm not going to say is my fault. It's because I'm playing this challenge where I'm restricted into what I can play. But in these cases, you can't be stuck on a specific carry or a specific unit, especially those 4 and 5 cost units. They're so hard to hit. You need to be able to adapt, and if this was a normal game, I would have adapted and moved those items onto, you know, maybe a Namzi or Deja or something. Instead, I tried to move the items onto Yasuo, and they just didn't work on him. I bled out a lot of health in the late game, and I just finished 8th again. Really, this one, is unlucky, but still, I should not be going 8th place in 3 games in silver. This is, you know, not a good look for me.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But as per the rules of the challenge, I need to play at least 5 games or get 3 top 4s before I can move on to the next comp. So this 5th game will be my last. And for this one, at this point, I'm really just trying to gain some LP and salvage this a little bit. I haven't lost much LP because 2 of the 8th place games were the last 2 games of my placements, but I'm starting off in silver 4, which is not exactly great. So I want to end on a strong note, and I'm going to go with that Jade Shimmer Scale comp that I was trying to go for last game and couldn't end up hitting. And I don't manage to hit on Shyvana, but I do manage to go with Jace and have 2 shapeshifters along with Shimmer Scale. So I have the offensive item on Jace as well as some defensive items on Idis. It ends up working out pretty well, and I end up getting 2nd in this game, so I end up coming out net positive on these 5 games in terms of LP, but definitely these are games where I have a lot to learn, in particular about not greeting in the early game, making sure to take what the game is giving to you, which is a little bit harder since I'm kind of constrained to what comps I can play, but being more flexible and aggressive and really making sure that I don't get too far behind the 8 ball, especially when I'm going for those 4 and 5 cost carries. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I will be back next week with another Chaos Climb episode. Be sure to click subscribe if you want to see when that drops, and before I go, let's spin the wheel to see what comp I'm going to be playing next week.